rail engineering facilities in the whole country are now very busy. A lot more third-party work. I've set them a target of about R1 billion from third-party work. So they have employed a marketing team that is going out into the continent to market these locomotives and to market our wagons, bogies, whatever we can sell. But also South America, Australia, Eastern Europe, we're looking at those markets. But the big opportunity for South Africa is that about 62% is local content. So if we can sustain this partnership, do more locomotives for GE in this fashion, we'll be able to create more jobs in South Africa. From direct jobs in Transnet, but also indirect jobs from our suppliers of the parts that we require for the locomotives that are sourced locally.
It's a dream come true that we can build a locomotive in South Africa. Just about every mechanical part in this locomotive is built here in South Africa and localized. So it really goes a long way into also propping up the local supply market for local content, in line with our competitive supplier development program. Local content now is about 65%. We're aiming for above 75%, as we continue. GE is they're now playing an advisory role. We've taken over the entire assembly, the manufacture of this is a fabricated bogie. It's only done in 2 places in the world. We used to have this imported, we now build it here. So just about every mechanical component on this locomotive is built in South Africa. But we don't stop there. For example, if it means that we add more value, we'd now assemble the engine instead of bringing it already assembled. We would assemble the traction motor, the AC traction motor, and we've got the capability in our plant to do that as well. We are now looking at building a customized African locomotive. Right? We've already done research on it, did the market research. We know what we want. It's going to be something that we understand, because nobody understands homologation like we do in TRE, right? Of what happens in Africa, the gauge, the kinematic envelope in engineering terms. So in the next 12 to 18 months, we will be putting together our own very Transnet locomotive.
The significance of this isn't monetary as much as it is from a standpoint of establishing a manufacturing foothold in Africa. And from that perspective, it's been very significant. And we're looking at really kind of replicating this approach elsewhere across the continent. Not necessarily in locomotives, but in other businesses that we have. And so from that standpoint, it's been pretty significant.
What benefit does that model of having manufacturing hubs in Africa bring to GE?
Well, it's a combination of, obviously dealing with the localization issues that are in each country, wanting jobs, at the same time allowing our facilities back in headquarters, wherever they may be, whether it's Europe or the United States, to supply parts, and also it's a win-win from that perspective. It gives us the ability to establish a foothold and then grow, which we might not be able to do if we were just importing all the time. And so that's how we look at it. What you really have is the ability to take a lot of the lessons learned from the U.S., especially with commodity rail, coal. These same locomotives do the coal from the mid part of the United States out to the ports, which is what they're doing here. So there's a lot of lessons learned and a lot of efficiencies gained from that. The biggest thing about the African rail aspect is having everyone connected and being able to ship from a port on the east or the west coast of Africa and up into the central, the landlocked countries, etc., and from the mines, and I think it's going to be a continual, gradual build out. The biggest thing that rail brings is the efficiency of a port, because if most of the stuff that gets sent from a port gets sent by truck, it's very inefficient. Not only from a standpoint of transport, but it chews up roads. It then causes ancillary impact into, I can tell you, I live in Nairobi, where all the truck traffic goes right through from Mombasa Port, and rail would be a big alleviator of that. And I think it has a broader impact across the whole country.